Well, hello, that's me again. It's the 3rd of June 2022. It's Friday, and I decided why should you have nice, relaxed weekend when I can spoil it for you and make it rotten and unpleasant. So here I am, and about couple of headlines which kind of pushed me towards my today's elaboration on the strategic matters, and one of them is rather stunning. Swiss people and Switzerland. Whenever we talk about Switzerland, what do we think about it? Well, yeah, good watches. Most of them are not made in Switzerland anymore. I mean, clean, nice place. Many stars, mega stars, decided to kind of retire there. Tina Turner, one of my favorite singers of all time, she's in Switzerland, I believe. Many people live in Switzerland, people of note. And now you have this headline, which is really almost nonchalantly states that, yeah, Switzerland risks power shortages next winter. And it's like begins to kind of push you towards scratching your head, because obviously Switzerland so nice and high standard of living and things of this nature, and you're like, how the hell this could happen? Because obviously it sounds very counterintuitive. Switzerland even 10 years ago, it was all about all those picturesque and beautiful, almost toy villages, clean everything, and so just beautiful country all around. So I don't know if I ever make it there, but again, I live in the Pacific Northwest. That is a stunner, believe me, nature wise. But yeah, it's kind of nice place. And then suddenly this advanced Swiss economy and advanced Swiss what have you suddenly is facing their power shortages. Well, it's actually normal state of the affairs nowadays for the Western world, and of course you are well aware about the power shortages on which I expected in Germany. Say France also has issues, and of course we all know this. I don't know how even to characterize it, but California, which is not really the United States, frankly, it's something entirely different altogether. And I love California, especially northern one. I mean, I adore, Lake Mount Shasta, Lake Shasta, just beautiful place all around, except for when you cross this Sacramento line, then you get into the Southern California. It's a little bit different story, but still, there are some beautiful places. And LA wasn't that bad often, until fairly recently. And yet, if you consider this what you call separate economy, as they love to talk, those Wall Street types about California, and they say, oh, it's going to be the eighth economy on its own in the world. No, it's not going to be eighth economy of its own in the world, because first, it's obviously the monetary expression of economy. Much of it is absolutely virtual and in service sector, and of course California produces some agriculture, and there are some high-tech industries there, and I'm talking about real high-tech. I'm talking about something producing things which are complex, machinery. But it's nowhere near the eighth economy in the world, which is complete bullshit. And that's what I want to talk about. I mean, we just discussed that, oh yeah, there are power shortages in Switzerland, elsewhere in this beautiful, which used to be beautiful and picturesque in some places, Europe, which is supposed to be the biggest thing in the world, which it is not anymore, and for a long time. But then, of course, in this no shit factor or duh factor, we have another kind of thinker, which RT loves to give their place on its pages, so to speak. It's Fyodor Lukyanov, the guy who is the chief editor of the magazine of Russia in the international politics, and he suddenly recognized that, oh my God, Russia is actually much, well, not much greater, more important and larger than, we used to, economically than it used to be considered. Of course, it used to be considered by, again, Wall Street types who do not know what real economy is, which produces, things which work, machinery, food, things of this nature, buildings, real buildings for something useful. And when you have this guy who obviously, he is like high profile among some circles, in Russia he says, oh yeah, it's finally proven that Russia is more important. I've been on that for last, 10 years at least, saying that everything you know about Russia economically is wrong. Everything the West knows about Russian economy is wrong. Everything the Moscow Parnassus, so to speak, and Moscow Bohem knows about Russian economy is also wrong. And, well, I guess who was right and who was wrong, so, and I'm not going to point out to anybody, but I've been doing fairly well with my predictions about the actual size of Russian economy and its impact on the world, which, of course, and you know this, I'm ad nauseam on that Russia's military power, a very big one actually, is impossible without really advanced economy, really well-developed economy, and especially the economy which runs the so-called enclosed cycles from the start of research, development, design, then production, and procurement of very complex things ranging from aircraft to nuclear power stations. That's real economy. And that is why I wanted to touch upon today one of the really important and very simple metrics which people usually use whenever discussing the issue of the military power of the country, for example. And it's an old one. It's been around for a number of decades, and it has some usage even today. But it's a good one to basically explain how you can measure things, in terms of weighted averages, which of course we also well, they are sort of weighted averages, but in terms of what we're going to be talking about also in operations, and especially when explaining what, for example, happens in present-day Ukraine, and I already gave so many interviews. The latest one was today, again, with El Nino. You will hear to his podcast, and he will be talking with me about all that and the real situation, but especially since yesterday when Igor Konashenkov, Major General Igor Konashenkov, Russian MOD, Minister of Defense, described and actually produced the shots of the MI6 and other UK guys financing fake videos of Ukraine defeating Russians in Ukraine. So it is hilarious, obviously. Yeah, they have nothing to show for it, so what they do, as usual, they resort to fakes. But then again, UK military didn't win anything in decades and won't win anything in decades also, no matter how they try, because economically the United Kingdom, which also is having a severe economic calamity, and we literally have, and I feel for British people, we have people who would be choosing between the heat and food already now, and it will get much worse once the autumn comes. So, and that brings us to this whole situation of how this G7 is really not that G7 anymore, people. It's not the great sevens. And here's the thing, which is of course called the metric known as Composite Index of National Capability. It is used in the military analysis, but only part of it is really applicable here. But still, it's all one of those fundamentals. It's like staple, what you need to have to be military powerful. And it's like the same thing as the diet, You can have the finest steak, whatever you have, but without bread, without oil, without sugar, and you cannot eat steak every day. And fact is, you will need the carbohydrates, so to speak. Even people with diabetes, they need the carbohydrates, albeit they give them sometimes, elevated sugars, but you need that because you need to develop your all kinds of the organs, they have to be sustained. And same goes for the Composite Index of National Capability, which consists of 6 major measures. Fact is, we can always expand it if we have to go to the Composite Index of National Capability. We can stick those famous Jeffrey Barnett's 14 points, which I referred to in my previous videos, probably a couple months ago when I was talking about a number of things related to the military power. And you can look it up all at my blog. I refer to them constantly. And this was all done and taken by Samuel Huntington in 1994 while writing his pretty remarkable, they are not the worst geopolitical book written in the United States, called The Clash of Civilizations and Their Making of the World Order. And he was using those 14 points, most of them which are related to actual manufacturing and not to finances and services. And that's were the ones which were defining pretty much not just military, but overall power of the civilization or the nation. So, but here we'll stay within the framework of those only 6 indicators or indices, if you wish, and I will explain the significance of each of them to you, and then we kind of review the simple example, how it all works. Consider this. So, Composite Index of National Capability is the average of 6 main indices divided by 6, obviously, and here they are, which is TPR, Total Population of Country Ratio, UPR, Urban Population of Country Ratio, immediately rings the bell. Why it is so important, urban, population, indeed? What's the big deal? Well, whether we want or not, but even today, cities or city agglomerations, unlike the village and countryside, which still produces some and definitely produces a lot in terms of the agriculture, the cities not only show you the prestigious percentage of the urbanization, which is all baloney, but they are, by definition, and this is the hidden meaning of all this index, are the centers of the technological and industrial development. You cannot imagine the city of Everett without Boeing, period. The same goes for Renton in Seattle. Renton is another Boeing huge factory there, which produces, by the way, B737, which is killing Boeing. But fact is, it's there. It produced the B-17 Stratofortresses during the Second World War II. World War II. And so in this particular case, when we say the urban population of country ratio, we mean that it is these are cities which also produce real economy, real technology, real development. Then, of course, comes this other incredibly important index, which is ISPR, Iron and Steel Production of Country Ratio. Wow! What is the iron and steel production ratio? Why it is so important? Well, I have news for you guys, obviously, and you already know it. There is nothing which you can do without iron or steel. It's a strategic thing. It's one of the most important strategic materials and products which you can possibly have, because we live in the world dominated by steel and iron and other metals. You make ships out of steel, you make rails out of steel, you make everything pretty much out of steel. Even some gizmos, electronic gizmos, they require metals and they require steel even. So in this particular case, we're looking at a very important thing. And that is why if you go back to some of my older, again, videos where I presented the table of the, for example, some key numbers of key productions of the world, or let's say G12, I believe, or G8 or 9, something like that. But important countries, because I have also South Korea there and Japan and all that. Well, Japan is G7, South Korea is not, but China also there, and Russia, and they are not G7, so whatever, G10, what have you. You will see yourself that actually Russia produces, having almost 2 times less population than United States. Russia produces about the same number of, the same tonnage of steel, while obviously China outproduces everything by the factor of 10. So in this case, iron and steel production is extremely important. It immediately gives you the idea about what country is up to. Now, of course, comes this one. ECR, yeah. Primary Energy Consumption Ratio. Okay. So you just saw yourself that Switzerland might have issues with energy, and Germany already is having the issues with energy. And then, of course, France might have issues with energy, and the whole of Europe and things like that. And the United States is having issues with energy. And primary energy, guess what? It's electricity, and it is, of course, gas, all those oils, gasoline. And yeah, I looked up Geico app in trying to find the cheapest gasoline around, went from Boston to Seattle to San Francisco to LA, and yeah, it varies between $5 a gallon for the lowest grade, 87 I believe, of gasoline to 6.75 I believe in LA, and there are some, and these are cheapest obviously. Averages are even higher, and you can get as high as 750 or what have you. So if you have those primary energy consumption ratio, and you have those energy products costing you so much, you're not going to develop that much down the road. You're probably going to be declining. It's pretty much self-evident. So, and of course, yeah, today the oil hit there something around like 120, 119.75 dollars per barrel. So, and this is absolutely a prohibitive price for the development of the Western world. China, of course, has a, sweet deal with Russia, but Western world, well, the United States obviously has a deal with Russia and loves, Russian oil and some other Russian energy, and uses Russian LNG and gas in its trade. But Europe is forbidden from using this, and yeah, that's why Europe is done pretty much. And that's kind of Swiss thing also kind of, gives you a hint on that issue. Now, this is the one which is MER, military expenditure ratio, and well, it's not expenditure really. It's how much bang for a buck you have, but we will let it slide here because you have to understand that you cannot compare, and I'm on record, I wrote books on that you cannot compare those $770 billion United States waste on its so-called defense with, for example, this $65 billion Russia uses for its defense, because the purchasing power parity is there, and it's even that is not enough. Russian ruble cannot be converted directly to the dollar anymore. It could have been for a while. And the issue here is that Russian ruble buys so much more bang for a, so to speak, proverbial ruble or buck than the American dollar. And that is why Russia also has the lead in some fields, especially advanced weapons, which otherwise would require enormous expenditures on R&D and procurement. And the United States is not even close to developing anything like this, like hypersonic weapons or some other sensors. And in this particular case, expenditure is not the good index, but you can always adjust it. So if you ask me what is the real Russian expenditure in terms of percentage of the American expenditure for military defense, I will tell you that it's about between 1/3 and almost nearing the half. But Russians get so much more, apart from the fact that fielding some things which, again, as I said, the United States is not even close. The United States cannot even produce the new main battle tank. So then, of course, we have MPR, military personnel ratio, and as you can see yourself, the explanation of this whole thing is that a ratio is a ratio of the, when we talk about ratio, it's about what country, how country measures on those values, so to speak, relative to the rest of the world, relative to the whole sum of what world have in this respect. So, as you can see yourself, still, when you look at this, these are not empty indices. It's not like that straightforward. Again, if you talk about, again, let's say primary energy consumption ratio, my gosh, to consume energy, you have to not only produce it, you have to have the massive and very sophisticated infrastructure, from the electric grid to pipelines to what have you, to be delivered to your customers, be them industrial customers or simple people, driving their cars or what have you. So in this particular case, it looks pretty simple, but in reality it's much deeper as it seems, and it's a great kind of instrument to use, and in this particular case we can review this example of, for example, of how you can measure it, and in this particular case I use the ratio of what the world, so to speak. It's a simple example. It's from my first book, and I said, okay, for the heck of it, let's use the that the whole world means 10. Okay, that means the 10 of everything, so as the foundation. And then we'll start looking for the ratios of some country A and B. And you can see yourself that because we assumed that everything is 10, so you don't really have to divide it. You just basically, look at it as it is. But here it is. If you, for example, say nation A has this first index 1, other 3, the other 2.5, and on and on and on. If we consider that each of those sums for the whole world is 10, guess what we get? You get 1 divided by 10, which is 0.1, 3 divided by 10, 0.3, and on and on and on. Same old story, same old story. You get what? To the sum of it, which is 1.65. Okay, then we have obviously, as you can see yourself, the nation B. It has different, again, values. We say 1.5 and on and on and on. We again divided by 10, and guess what we get? We get the sum of 1.57. So as you can see yourself, this is the sum. After that, what do we have to do? Because it's average, we have to divide respectively 1.65, because we have 6 indices, by 6, and 1.57 by 6. Guess what we get? For a nation A, its composite index of national capability will equal 0.275. For nation B, it will be its sum 1.57 divided by 6, 0.262. Obviously, in this particular case, 0.275 is larger than 0.262, but guess what? You can say immediately that, well, while the nation A is doing better, in terms of this index, still it's a very close match. It is a very close match. And here comes this funny thing. You can look up actual data, and maybe I will do it next. What's the name of it? Next video. For example, Russia and United States. And you will see yourself that in terms of composite index of national capability, they are fairly close. I don't remember, I did it myself once, but while the United States definitely has a larger index, no doubt about it, but they are much closer than you might think, especially considering the fact that Russia is actually twice smaller in terms of population, against 330 million population of the United States, and Russia together, if you consider also Belarus, and obviously now obviously joining Lugansk and Donetsk republics, which provide another 5 million. So you're looking at probably 165 million population. It's still much larger than any country of Europe. And again, Russian economy, real economy, is much larger than, for example, Germany's economy. And of course, not let alone in terms of national capability, Russia produces some things Germany cannot even dream about. So, and yeah, Germany can produce obviously very overpriced Mercedes and BMWs, but there are other things which really matter in this life. And as you can see yourself, as Swiss already stated that, well, energy really matters, right? And obviously Greta Thunberg, we don't have Greta Thunberg around us anymore, as much as we need, because she would explain to us how to eat, what have you, organic food, and how to, I don't know, use the bicycles to power your house, maybe, to be green, what have you. I don't know. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But here it is. Here's what I wanted you to live with today, that, hey, here is the composite index of national capability. And once you compare, for example, Russia and the United States, it's kind of, it's different, really. It's not what Wall Street Journal tells you. And it's not what, of course, UK and MI6, what have you, they finance those fake videos by the Ukrainian military, which is being absolutely obliterated. So, And that's what I wanted to talk about today. And as always, guys, those who want, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford it, please support me on the Patreon. And I want to express again and again my profound gratitude for my sponsors, for people who support me financially, because obviously that allows me to do these videos. And again, I will probably be increasing somewhat, if not the number of videos. I'm probably gonna be making kind of longer ones and more profound ones. And again, I'm already working on the preliminary plan of the more profound approach to the lectures on operations. So that is my talk for you today, guys, and have a nice weekend, and I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.